Hello, I'm Nate. Yes, I know my setup changed a little bit. We all are resistant to change, but my setup had to change a little bit, so the camera angle is different, and we're just going to have to be okay with that. Between the years of 1585 and 1609, Countess Elizabeth Bathory de Esqued tortured and killed hundreds of young women. Now, although we have multiple and many witness accounts that testify that she did, in fact, torture and kill these young women, the rumors that persist are the ones that are unverified, which, namely, are the ones that she bathed in virgin blood to maintain her youth. During the 19th century, and I swear this is related, you're just going to have to stick with me for a second, impoverished people would sell their hair to wig makers who would turn it not only into wigs, but into jewelry and doll hair and other things like that for wealthy individuals. Fun fact, the desperately poor would sell their teeth, as teeth extraction was common among the time, and the wealthy elite were not in favor of having big gaps in their teeth, so when bone, wood, ivory, and animal teeth didn't work out, they started using human teeth. Pretty soon the poor donor supply couldn't meet the demand of the wealthy, so they started turning to corpses. Luckily for this European Gucci gang, the Battle of Waterloo had just happened and 50,000 soldiers were dead. The wealthy elite didn't want the old, rotten, diseased teeth of regular corpses, but these young, healthy soldiers had just wonderful, bright white pearlies laying around for the picking, and that's what people did. Scavengers would collect teeth by the jarful and sell them to denture makers, who would in turn make them into dentures and sell them to wealthy people. This was such a common occurrence that human teeth just became known as Waterloo teeth after a while. So in the early 21st century, namely 2016, a small crowd-funded startup spearheaded by Jesse Karmazin came into being. The startup funded a clinical trial of the effects of young blood on the elderly wealthy people. You can find this trial at clinicaltrials.gov under the number NCT0225636 and look it up for yourself. On there you will find that there were 18 participants reported, although some sources say that there were 9 participants. That lasted 9 weeks, although some sources say that it lasted a month. These 18 elderly people were given the blood of young men under 30, or more specifically the plasma from the blood of young men under 30, to see what the results would be. This experiment also had no control group, and generally, the results were that a larger study was warranted, obviously. Although a lot of these facts reported from the trials and from other sources don't quite match up, and the business now sells donor blood from 16 to 25 to transfuse into elderly, even though the study was done in men under 30's plasma. At least the company was transparent enough to name itself Ambrosia as if it were anticipating the Dickens-esque critique that was coming. So where do they get this blood? They mention on their website that they get it from blood banks, and that's as specific as anyone gets. The website only mentions that the blood is received from local blood banks, not plasma donation centers where people get paid for donating, but blood banks where they take all of the blood, and instead of returning the red blood cells like they do at plasma donation centers, they take all of it, separate out the red blood cells from the white blood cells in the plasma, because plasma is used as something else than red blood cells, and red blood cells without the white blood cells are more likely to be accepted by the donee. This was all inspired by a study done by Irene and Michael Conboy, who didn't even do this. They didn't transfer blood or plasma from younger mice to older mice. They did something called parabiosis, which is where they fused the veins of 2 living mice together, and then studied the results of that. Irene Conboy, who's looked over the study that was done by Ambrosia, stated not only was Karmazin's interpretation wrong, it's dangerous. Michael Conboy pointed out that blood transfusion just by itself for any reason is not inherently without risk, stating that every time you do it, you're magnifying your immune response. Reputable physicians who do this for life-threatening conditions know the risk. So not only is there no proven benefits to this snake oil treatment that he's peddling to wealthy elderly people, but there are risks that are well known and proven. The company even briefly shut down earlier this year after the FDA released a warning about the treatment, but it found a legal loophole to where it can still operate. The company is still in business using a legal loophole called off-label medicine, where something that's been approved by the FDA, like blood transfusions, can be prescribed for something other than its intended use by a medical licensed physician. Now, this is intended for things like taking some drug that's in a capsule and approving a patient to be able to take this in a liquid form instead because they can't swallow a pill or something similar to that. But they're taking the idea of blood transfusions, which is things people need for chemotherapy, for blood loss, and for a host of other things. And they're turning it into this Elizabeth Bathory-esque vampirism and they're selling it at $8,000 a liter. This blood has been donated to a blood bank. No one's getting money out of this except for the people who are doing these transfusions. The website itself, ambrosiaplasma.com, is a few sentences describing what the company is and where they operate. The pricing on the blood, which is $8,000 for 1 liter and $12,000 for 2 liters, so you do get a deal if you take more of the youth's blood. Then they have an entire paragraph dedicated to wild claims about all the things that this treatment can do for you, none of which are substantiated by any published clinical trials, and in fact go against what most medical researchers are saying about the treatment. And then the only thing else on there, there's no links, there's no other pages on this website. The only thing else that there is on there is a box for you to submit your name, email, and either a request for scheduling for an appointment or contact us, which I imagine is filtered so that they don't have to take a bunch of questions from people like me. Can the blood of the young allow the elderly to stay healthier longer? Most researchers right now say it's not very likely. Is Jesse Karmazin genuinely interested in finding a cure for Alzheimer's, perhaps treatment for other aging-related diseases? Maybe. Does he just love money and legal loopholes? Probably. Is he a vampire? Unclear. Warrants further study. Plasma and the white blood cells, because that's some fresh teeth. Alzheimer's and otherly, live hard, die young. Live poor, die young.